The United States, where 2 students and 2 teachers were actually killed in a mass shooting at a high school in Georgia. The suspect, a 14-year-old student at the high school, was questioned by law enforcement even last year regarding anonymous tips about online threats to commit a school shooting. This is according to a joint statement from the FBI and Jackson County Sheriff's Office. The subject denied making the threats online, the agencies have said, but the suspect is currently in custody. This is the 14-year-old suspect. And this shooting, unfortunately, is at least the 45th school shooting in 2024. It comes less than a month since classes resumed as the United States continues to struggle to bring a gun violence epidemic under control.
So before I begin, I do want to say a few words about this tragic shooting that took place this morning in Winder, Georgia. We're still gathering information about what happened, but we know that there were multiple fatalities and injuries. And, you know, our hearts are with all the students, the teachers, and their families, of course. And we are grateful to the first responders and the law enforcement that were on the scene. But this is just a senseless tragedy on top of so many senseless tragedies. And it's just outrageous that every day in our country, in the United States of America, that parents have to send their children to school worried about whether or not their child will come home alive. It's senseless. It is. We've got to stop it.
Well, the U.S. has seen hundreds of shootings inside schools and colleges in the past 2 decades, as we have been reporting. In fact, the Gun Violence Archive reported there had been 384 mass shootings in the U.S. this year, before Wednesday's incident in Georgia, and more than 11,500 killed by gunshots, excluding suicide. In fact, the group considers a mass shooting to be one in which 4 or more victims are killed or shot, not including the shooter. Toni Waterman joins us with the latest from Ground Zero.
The investigation is still very much in the early stages, but what we know so far is that 2 students and 2 teachers at the Appalachia High School in Winder, Georgia, were killed on Wednesday. Officials say another 9 people were taken to local hospitals with various injuries. A suspect is in custody, a 14-year-old male student at the school. The county sheriff says he has been interviewed, but at this point, no motive has been released. Officials added that they're not aware of any connection between the suspected shooter and the victims. The director of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation says the suspect will be charged with murder and tried as an adult, which means he could face the death penalty. This shooting at the high school, which is located about an hour outside of Atlanta, started just after 10 a.m. local time Wednesday. Police arrived within minutes and say once confronted, the suspect surrendered immediately. Now, as you'd imagine, there's been an outpouring of grief over this incident. Kamala Harris, the Democratic nominee for president, calling it a senseless tragedy. Former President Donald Trump saying our hearts are with the victims and their loved ones, while President Joe Biden reiterated calls for stronger gun laws. According to the Gun Violence Archive, there has been 385 mass shootings in the U.S. so far this year, 45 of those happening at schools, yet lawmakers have done nothing to advance legislation to make it harder for people to access firearms. Now, Appalachia High School is going to remain closed for the remainder of the week as the investigation continues and the community tries to pick up the pieces. Toni Waterman, NDTV, Austin.